Hello.
Hello.
Can you see my screen and can you see me?
Yes, both the above.
Perfect. How are you?
I'm good, and you, Eva? Freezing cold.
It's getting better here now. Today it's sun and no rain, so it's getting way better.
Oh,
It's
lucky.
still cold, but tomorrow it will be more than 20 degrees again, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that is lovely. Wow.
Yeah. Just have a look. Okay, Firdaus will be coming a little bit later. And Martina as well. Guest delivery and handyman. Yeah, everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Hello, Juliette. Oh, Taryn, it's nice to not see you, but see your picture here.
How are you, Eva?
I'm fine, thank you. Hope you're fine as well.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice videos, huh? Well done.
Thank you. So I have a look at the watch. It's still 2 to 3 minutes left, so we can wait. And then we won't wait for Martina and Firdaus because they are coming late. And I think Laura can't join today. And luckily there's no load shedding here. I'm glad. Just stage 1. So today we are completely off load shedding.
It does make a difference, hey?
It does. Imagine if this whole course would have taken place while there is load shedding. It would have been crazy with the schedule and everyone, I'm off, you're off, everyone's off, and
It would have been a nightmare. We're so lucky. We actually, before lockdown started, we've gone off the grid. We put solar panels in.
Oh, that's good.
But they weren't active until, 2 weeks ago, because they still had to put the panels on the roof. So it's just started working. It's amazing. We don't even know when there's load shedding.
That's good. And Catherine has a generator as well. I just envy her and you and everybody else who's just not dependent on Elcom.
It really does. I mean, it's just so disruptive to your life.
Yeah. And even your private life, I can't imagine running a business and never knowing. And that is, I think that's the worst, that you never know. Is it stage 1? Is it stage 2? Is it stage 3? I think it's much easier if you know.
They change their minds, because they'll say it's stage 2 on the app, and it will be stage 2. And then it will start like half an hour later, and it'll run 3 hours into when it's supposed to be finished.
Yeah,
so
that's
very
crazy.
Frustrating. And we live on a property where we are freestanding property. So when there was no load shedding, we had no security, because the battery only lasts for a certain amount of time.
Oh,
okay. Fences don't work. You can't put your alarms or your beams on. So it was quite stressful for us. So, I mean, that was the biggest reason we did it, was for security purposes.
And it feels better, definitely. Yeah. And as we talked about before, the feeling of security is very important for your nervous system.
It is. It's very important. Shame,
Okay.
even did it take you a long time to put all this together?
It did. Yeah.
I can imagine.
But
imagine.
You have time to watch it all as well. So I apologize for that. But I just thought it might be. But I thought it might be a good idea to give you, like, even if you want to do some reading afterwards and dive a little bit deeper into some of the topics we are talking about, that you have an understanding of the language that is used in whatever you are looking at then. So we won't need all of that today. And I will do a short recap in the beginning, and no one has to worry that he can't understand or she can't understand what's going on. It's just that I wanted you to have like a really solid foundation of what we will be talking about, so that for those who want to dive in deeper, that they can. Because that is something I always struggle about. Yeah.
Because I studied somatology when I finished school. It was a 3-year diploma, and it was 3 years of proper anatomy and physiology. And we obviously did the nervous system. And it's amazing how I haven't used it in so many years. All the words and the terms just come back like this. I'm like, oh, my brain is not that dead.
That is what repetition does to you. So 3 years of constant, you can wake me up in the middle of the night and I can do all the Latin verbs and I can do everything with them because I had 9 years of Latin in school. I will never forget that. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock. Hello, everybody. Nice to see so many of you. So thank you very much for your time, because I know it's your free time more or less, and you've got other things to do as well. So I'm really, I really appreciate you coming and listening to me. So what we are going to do today, I would like you to mute yourselves. So I will not mute everyone, because then you can't just hop in and ask questions. Then I will always have to unmute you, and maybe I will not realize that there's someone who wants to say something. So just to get that out of the way, please mute yourselves. And whenever you feel like you want to say something, just unmute yourself and go ahead. So it's really just go and ask questions, but please don't be offended if I then maybe say, well, wait a little bit, we will cover that on the following slides or something like that. If you ask a question that is a little bit premature, I will ask you to wait with the answer. And if it's a question that is not really necessary to be answered for the content we have today, I will answer you, I will ask you to wait, and I will answer to you after the session. I will answer any question you have if I can, because I can't answer all questions, but if I can, I will try to, but maybe not in this session if it's not really important for this session, because we have to cover a lot of content and it's already a lot of time. So I will either answer directly or I will postpone during the session or to after the session. I hope that's okay for everyone. And then I wanted to ask if everybody remembered to have a mat nearby, a ball and a block, please. Because what we are going to do is to talk about theory and to cut it into a little bit more digestible pieces. I will combine the theory with practice. So it's a little bit like the nervous system, like the sympathetic part, all those learning and theory, and then to calm you down a little bit, we will do some practice, which will be directly applied, a direct application of the theory. For those of you who wonder, you can see my shared screen already. For those of you who wonder what Albert Einstein is doing there, no worries, we won't talk about quantum physics today. This is too complicated for me. I don't know about you, but for me it's too complicated. And I know he's German like me, but that isn't the reason why he's on the slide. And it's also not the reason that we like to be photographed in the same pose. The reason is that he is normally associated, or a lot of people associate him with the brain. I think that we can all agree on that he probably had a very special brain, and so I thought it was a good idea to put him on the slides for our little workshop here, which has a lot to do with our brains. And another note at the beginning, we will talk about selected topics with relevance for yoga asana. So I will not have a lot of pranayama or meditation, because Janine, go ahead, just unmute yourself.
Oh, you're recording, sorry, I thought you weren't recording.
Yes, I have a automatic recording. It recorded even our everything. So thank you, Janine. And I'm a little bit worried about Caro. Are you awake? Because you didn't ask me about recording. Okay, no, so the meditation and pranayama part has already been covered a lot with Carla. So I don't want to jump on that too much. I will more focus on the part of the active part of practice. So like a really standard practice, I would like to show you how what I showed you in the videos can be used in really any yoga class. And to demonstrate that, I just took one of Laura's sessions, the very first one that we did, that Catherine sent to us, and try to just find a few things that could be applied there, because that is something that you can do with your classes as well. Just do your standard classes and maybe put in 1, 2, 3, or 5 things that you now already have learned or will be learning today. So just to make it really applicable to any standard yoga class. So our theme is peak pose sequencing for a balancing forward bend, the one that Laura did, and at the same time balancing the autonomic nervous system. I think that most of us like to think that our thinking brain is primarily in charge. And that's why we are called Homo sapiens, I think, or we like to think. But in actual reality, human functioning is really an ongoing dance between the older and newer brain parts. And that is based on environmental contextual cues on the one part, so what is coming from the outside, and our high priority brain drives, which are primarily survival-based actions. That means that we have the old brain part, which reacts to the stimuli from the environment in a certain way. And that way is that it always tries to save us. That is always concerned with our survival. And that the newer brain parts also come in, but the priority is always on the old brain side. That is what I showed you in the videos. So this is a quick recap of what we learned so far. Remember, the older brain is always only concerned with survival and safety. And that is why it is faster and less conscious in its work. It has to work quickly. Otherwise, you're dead before it reacts. So that's not good. The primary job of the thinking brain, of the newer brain, is to inhibit, to counteract the older brain. This is what allows us to function in normal societal contexts and work with other individuals safely and constructively. So, like the example I gave in the videos, if you see a spider on your arm, your first reaction will be to cry, run away, whatever, move your limbs to get the spider off you. That would be your old brain at work. And the thinking brain might be clever enough to say, well, I am in Germany right now, and there are no dangerous spiders in Germany, no poisonous spiders, nothing can happen, and spiders are actually relatively useful animals. So why not be cool, take the spider, bring it outside, and let it do its job there. That would be inhibiting what the older brain was first trying to do. And if we want to put it in a nutshell in 3 seconds, our nervous system is just input, interpretation, and output. So it receives information from the internal and external environment, say the spider, interprets this signal, like, okay, this is an animal that I don't like, I want to get rid of it in however way, and create motor output based on the decision that was made. Either wriggle your arms and get rid of it and maybe even kill it, or slowly go outside and put it outside. It's the motor output then. And that is why I made that big claim, or not only me, but also this doctor in the very beginning of our videos, to say that we have a nervous system for one reason and one reason alone, and that is creating movement. The output is always movement in any kind of way. So far, so good? Okay. What I said, input, integration, interpretation, or output. The integration, just to remind you of that, always depends on not only what you see, but also on what you know and what you have experienced before. So, as I said, if you're in Germany, you probably know there are no poisonous spiders, no way you can get any way harmed by a spider. And that might be different from when you are in South Africa and you know there are poisonous spiders. because I have already been bitten by one and I don't like to see a spider at all when I'm in Germany. So yeah, my reaction is completely different when I'm in Germany than when I am in South Africa, and that is the integration part. So it's not always just that what we see on the outside. There's a lot going on in the inside. That is past experiences and knowledge and whatever. It's all integrated. It's not just one very, very single thing that goes through your mind, but it's combined with a lot of other information, and then you will decide what to do with the motor output. You will probably ask yourself now, why does that matter? And it's a legitimate question, because from the outside, it doesn't look like it's got anything to do with yoga, and you might still have to do your research project and might like to have a little bit more time. But here's the answer. As a yoga teacher, you should recognize that the ultimate output of your student's nervous system, whether that be a yoga pose, pain or weakness, is the sum total of everything occurring in this loop. So the input, the interpretation, and then the output. But yoga asana, as most health and fitness therapy systems, tend to be highly output centric. So we just look at pose. Someone should please mute themselves. There's someone where I get, okay, maybe just check if you're muted.
I think it's Roxanne, if you just wanna go mute.
Okay, thank you, Tegan. So we are looking at the output. So our focus is on the end of the loop. So we cue alignment, we put sequences together with a peak pose in mind. So we really think a lot about the output, but do we also think about the input? You can argue, well, I don't have to, I'm not interested in the input. I just want to see the output, but what if we would think about the input? And interestingly, it's only 10% of the total output of the cortical hemisphere of our thinking brain that is dedicated to voluntary movement. So while we are focusing solely on the movement part, on the output, our brain, or our brain's capacity is 90% occupied by all the other things, not by the output, by producing the output itself. So for me, it's a clue that it might be relevant, or it might be useful to have a look at what the brain does with the other 90%, to have a look at what is going on in the rest of the loop. And what is really interesting for us, and I think it's a good, that is good, it's good news. We can train all parts of the loop. We don't have to just look at the outcome. We can also train with the input and also influence the integration part. But the first step in this is to recognize that many problems that students have with the output might begin with input problems. So we really need to recognize that and be aware of that and have a look at why that might be. There are all different types of input that can create issues or that influence how the output will look like. I have put together a little diagram which is so blurred that it represents exactly that there's so much input that it's like, it is overwhelming. You can't even read it. It's just, there is exteroception. That would be our visual input, our auditory input, our olfactory input, our gustatory input, tactile, vestibular. So all those things. Then also our proprioception, which is how we experience our movement. What pressure do we feel? What temperature do we feel? How is the chemical content in our blood? Do we perceive threat? And interoception. What's going on with our cardiovascular system? How is our breath? How is our body temperature? All this is measured by receptors, and the brain uses it to integrate it to whatever it does at a certain moment. It's not just like do Warrior 2 and it's doing Warrior 2. At the same time, it's realizing all the other things, and the way it will do Warrior 2 will depend on all these other variables as well. I see that some of you are taking a lot of notes. I will send out this whole presentation to you, just like it is. So everything that is on the screen and all the videos that are in here, you don't have to write down anything. You just have to write down, if you want to, the things that are not on the screen. So just to, because I felt like after all the note taking that my hand was getting really tired from doing all those notes. So just to save you that, you can be sure after the presentation you get all of it and all the input. So relax and listen. So if we want our thinking brain more in charge, as we said, we think we are Homo sapiens and we want our thinking brain to prove that we are really thinking people and not just reacting on old reflexes, we would have 3 access points. That would be the sensory receptors, where the nerve endings or sensory organs that receive the input from the environment create the signal for the nervous system. The other access point would be the nerves themselves, because they carry the signals to the nervous system, and the spine and brainstem brain, where the signals that arrive are interpreted. So these would be the 3 things we will be looking at with different techniques. So far, okay? Good. Question, how? It is all very good if you know a lot about the brain and know a lot about the nervous system, but how to integrate it into a yoga class. You could just randomly throw a few techniques together, maybe. That would be like putting together a few yoga poses, like, let me think, warrior 1, warrior 2, warrior 3, because it's 1, 2, 3, and then I do, I don't know, a forward fold, and time is over, Shavasana. That you can do that, but you won't do that with yoga poses, so you won't do that with your output. So it's probably useful to think about how to peak pose sequence for a nervous system class. Not to just put in techniques like completely randomly, but to also have some like end product in mind. And what I like to do, I can really recommend this book. It's called Buddha's Brain. Thanks Firdaus for providing me with some of the input here. It is very recommendable to read for everyone who is interested in neuroscientific evidence. It compares this evidence with Buddhist philosophy, and most of the Buddhist philosophy that is mirrored in yoga a lot, you will already know, and it's been there for like, thousands of years. But this book provides, it's written by a neuroscientist, and it provides a lot of the scientific reasoning behind it. Like a few hundred years ago, there was no way to visualize what's going on in our brains. And now we have brain scans, which can show you directly what's going on in your brain while you do certain things. And this book summarizes very nicely how the things that we do in yoga have an effect on the brain, and that it is in most cases a very, very real and very, very good effect. And it's for someone like me, I'm more a scientist, that really made me value all the things we do in yoga even more, because now I had like proof that it's working, and not just like, okay, it works because I see it. So in this book, he writes, and that is very interesting, for you to stay healthy, each system in your body and mind must balance 2 conflicting needs. 1, it must remain open to inputs during ongoing transaction with its local environment, because closed systems are dead. But on the other hand, each system must also preserve a fundamental stability, staying centered around a good set point and within certain ranges, which means not too hot or too cold, for example, inhibition from the prefrontal cortex, our new brain, and arousal from the limbic system, the old brain, must balance each other out. Too much inhibition and you feel numb inside. So like, even if there were 1,000 spiders on your body, you would still say, well, I don't mind. So that would not be normal and not really good. And too much arousal, you would feel overwhelmed. That would be my daughter, who even when she sees a little ant, she already starts crying spider and is leaving the room. So that would also not be what we want. So in effect, it's balancing our autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic part, the part that is produced by more or less by the old brain, and the parasympathetic part, which is more the calming down part where your thinking brain, the Homo sapiens, comes in. And that would be the goal for a class that wants to integrate the nervous system into Yogasana. So balancing a forward bend and balancing the ANS. And that is something that goes together well, because both require perpetual practice. Like balancing is always finding the balance between stability and mobility. You have to be mobile to find the stability. And the same is true for the autonomic nervous system. It's not a switch which switches the one on, the sympathetic part, or off the parasympathetic part, and the other way around. It's more or less like a dimmer, where you will always fine tune the balance between both parts and try to find equilibrium. But as you could see in the stress chapter that I provided in the videos, is that nowadays the balance is often tipping more towards the sympathetic part. So we are stressed a lot of times and in sympathetic drive. And so when we try to theme a class around balancing the autonomic nervous system, it would naturally be more towards influencing the parasympathetic side to activate that side, because we need and want to find balance. Still with me? Yes? Okay. The last very theoretical thing before we really come to the application is what we can do. We have two ways to influence or to activate our nervous system. One would be a top-down and the other would be a bottom-up approach. That is because, this is a recap again, just for those who didn't have time to watch the videos. Our brain regulates emotions in two ways. I just simplify it very, very, very much. Top down, we would rely on our frontal lobes, the new brain, to understand our emotion and help us deal with it. That was, the spider is not dangerous, I would just bring it outside. The other is, we rely on activity of brainstem and cerebellum, that is the old brain. And when they are triggered and activated, they communicate with the amygdala and the limbic system, the old brain, to let us know whether our body is okay or not. If it's okay, it shifts to the parasympathetic mode and to positive emotions. And if it's not okay, it shifts towards negative emotions and the sympathetic part is activated. So that would be if I see a puppy, and the reaction would probably be, oh, I'm okay, even if my thinking brain isn't involved. I'm okay, this is so sweet, and I am happy. But if I see the spider, I will be in alert mode. So that is what I told you just before. When we have the top-down approach working, then we would say, okay, this is not dangerous and everything is fine. And the other way around would be, are we alerted? But there is not only the option to be driven by the amygdala and look for cover, run away, or freeze, to somehow react in panic to that spider, even if you don't have access to your thinking brain, even if you don't let it rule you. if you start to move your body. Yes, Firdous, you didn't hear before. You just talk to me. Unmute yourself and talk to me. Don't have to raise.
Okay. Oh, we don't have to raise hands. Sorry, I was just accepting the guest,
fine.
and I'm also still half chewing. Eva, sorry, I don't want to preempt where you're going, but I just wanted to ask if you were going to talk a little bit about the research that shows that the size of the amygdala actually changes during certain like trauma-informed practices. And so I don't know if you've looked at that, but I found that very interesting in terms of that you can actually see it change.
Yeah, that is a lot of the the base for what we will be doing is that it can be on the fMRI scans. You can see what's happening in your brain, and you can also see that the corpus callosum is thickening and all those kind of things. But I think it is for us, and it is just a short workshop. All this is, I try to cover as much theory in the videos, and it's been already a lot, I think. Just for everyone, I put a lot of reading recommendations into the slides. And if you're interested in what can be seen on brain scans and how the brain actually changes while we do things, I really recommend the Davidson book, where Richard Davidson, the Altered Habits, Altered Traits. There you can see that it is a meta study of all the things that have been done on yoga, meditation, and how the brain is affected. But it would be going in too deep for now to just to talk about what is actually really changing before we even know what to do in class, because I think that is most important for us. And I know there are things that are not yet even proven scientifically, because it costs a lot of money, and all the techniques that need to be done to see what's going on in the brain are relatively new compared to a lot of other medical parts. So the thing is, I chose topics that are at the very least definitely not harming. If you experience with it, it will not hurt you. It can't make you anything worse than it is. So that was the base level, but most of them are also already scientifically very well researched. Others are not as much. I will tell you which of these are the things, but I'm a research person. But on the other hand, I don't know if some of you had a look at that Greg Lehman guy, the movement guru, so to say. He always says it's better to fish with a tight net than with a wide net. So if you see that things are working, even if you don't know exactly in the smallest little detail how the process it is that it's working, it's worth using it if it works. So that is what I would like to say to that. Firdous, did it answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I think Eva, but this is probably for not for this session, but I'll just throw it out there. It would be nice to have a discussion around like the ethics of how these things are researched, because like you mentioned, your base principle was to not excuse me, to not harm. And it's so interesting when you look at like who becomes the subject of the research, and then who the research is applied to. So I mean, Taryn was asking me earlier this week, and Taryn, I haven't forgotten, I promise, about like teaching in different contexts, you know, like, so often we'll get the research is done on very experienced meditators, but now we're taking that stuff out and teaching it in a refugee camp. And it's just not going to necessarily have the same response.
It's exactly that. They are summarizing studies that are doing with very experienced meditators as opposed to others. And there are definitely completely different effects at work in their brains. To alter brain habits, it takes more than just a little bit of meditating. But the thing is, what all of the studies show is that there is an immediate effect on people, no matter what level of meditators they are. And that goes a lot into, and I don't know what Carla will be doing with the because we still have a meditation session. So this is not my topic here, but the thing is, it is more the question of how long this will be relevant. So if something changes in your brain, certain areas light up. In meditators, it will have a longer lasting effect, or maybe an effect that will change overall, as opposed to just newbies. But in our case, we want to, or we would like to balance the nervous system for now. And that is the first step. And it is an ongoing process, as I said, like keeping the balance in Warrior 3 requires you to always stabilize in one direction, then the other, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's the same with the nervous system. And the aim of what I am doing is just to try to activate the parasympathetic nervous system a little bit more, to get a little bit more towards balance. Only temporarily, unfortunately, because there is no equilibrium that will last forever. Even the Dalai Lama is not in equilibrium the whole time. Okay, so we have this other option. We were at the spider, we were like, spider, and we can't even think about it. But what our body will do unconsciously a lot of times as well is that you will, and you can do it consciously, that you will maybe start moving slowly your body, or breathe deep, briefly. And that will bring the vagus nerve into the equation, the one that I talked about a lot as well in the videos. And that will communicate to the brainstem and cerebellum as well. And if we move slowly, if we breathe deeply, just very, very simplified approach, the amygdala will stop firing and relax as well. That is something that we really do a lot unconsciously. Like when we are scared, like, we bring the hands to our heart, or when we are surprised, we bring the hand to our lips, or someone, if he's really nervous, is touching his lips because there are a lot of sensory receptors there. Or we start to pace around when we are nervous, going back and forth around the room instead of sitting still and at one place. And that is both a regulation and not only the top down, the one that says, well, the spider is not dangerous, but also this touching yourself, walking slowly, moving, breathing, all these things regulate your nervous system. And that would be a bottom-up regulation, an example of bottom-up regulation. And that is where we will be focused on a lot. So what can we do with our movement, with how we breathe, how we move, what we do to influence through the back door, more or less, the reverse, our nervous system that might be in sympathetic mood and that we want to tip a little bit more to the parasympathetic side. Yes? Yes or no? Okay. So we will have some concepts. Most of them, or a lot of them, have already been here for a long time. So we already use a lot of them, and we can see it in Laura's sequence that she already integrated part of them into the sequence. So a lot of these techniques have already been there for a long time, but the scientific evidence for them was still missing because we didn't have brain imaging. For some of them, it's still the case, as I said. So some of them will be familiar to you, some of them will be new to you, and the new ones we will try to experience in our own bodies. So I would like you to now get more in the mode of, okay, we will get to our mats. We don't do a whole class. I will show you a concept in theory, and then we will try and feel it in our own bodies. So the concept presentation will be the sympathetic nervous system part, and the trying will be the calming, the parasympathetic part, so to say. I would like to start with something that is called myofascial release, self-release. That would be something that is closely related with the chapters connective tissue that you watched on video and the homunculus that you watched on video. If you didn't watch it, it's only important to remember that the fascia houses 6 times more neurons, nerve cells, and nerve receptors than any other tissue in your body except for your skin. So it is very closely married, connected to your nervous system. It's more or less the home of a lot or the majority of your nerve cells and nerve receptors. And myofascial self-release is any technique that is used to manipulate the muscles and fascia to restore elastic potential of muscles, release adhesions, increase blood and lymphatic circulation, increase hydration of tissues, and restore neuromuscular connections. And that is the part that is very interesting for us here in this context, which the restoring of neuromuscular connections will, and you will feel it very immediately, will make you, it will make your homunculus better, or the map in your brain of your body a lot clearer. You will feel that body part a lot clearer because the nerves will transfer information more efficiently. So the goals are to remove obstacles, to restore tissue integrity, and to allow for free passage of signals through the connective tissue system and unrestricted movement. You can think about how it works a little bit like if you have a sponge, a very dry sponge, and you put it in water, or it is in water, and you squeeze it, squeeze everything out, and then open it up again. The water will flow into this sponge, and it will be even more filled with water than it was ever before after you squeeze it. That's the way a sponge works. You know, you squeeze it and then it will get bigger again very quickly. And that is what your tissues do as well. So that is the hydration part. And how the movement and the connective tissue then works better is if you think about cling wrap. If you have cling wrap, 2 planes of cling wrap, and it is dry, both of them. And everything in the body is like sheaths over each other. And if you put cling wrap on top of cling wrap, it will not move, it will cling. But if you put a little bit of water between those 2, you can move it very easily. And that is what the myofascial, just visually, what the myofascial self-release does. With putting pressure on certain parts of the body, and it will be able, the different sheaths of your body, the tissue sheaths will be better able to slide over each other, and that will also allow better signaling through the nerves. There are a lot of types. I put them in the presentation because we don't have time. It's a whole workshop on its own to talk about myofascial self-release. I just wanted to show you some techniques that you can experience and that you can integrate in your classes without any problems, without knowing anything more. And you will have all the description that I have here in your presentation. Okay. So I have also put in a video to release your hamstrings, because that is something that is, for me, can be put in any yoga class that is, most of them or a lot of them, as we saw in our peak pose sequencing, try to open the hamstrings. So that is something that you might try at home. We don't have the time to try all of them. I could put together a whole hour of myofascial self-release, but I had to make a decision here. But if you try it at home, first try a forward fold. So do forward fold and feel how your hamstrings feel on both sides, and then do the self-release and do a forward fold again and compare what changed in your body. You will feel it really immediately. So that is something you can do afterwards, or whenever you will have the presentation forever. So if you in a year have time to think about yoga again, then you can do it still then. So as we are spending so much time in front of our computer right now, and a lot of you I always see, that's what I always do, like, I have to see it a little bit better. So our neck is really, for a lot of us, really tense, really tight. That is why I decided to put in the myofascial release for the neck. And it's a nice thing because you only need a yoga block, which is equipment that most studios have. And you can also just use a very big book, a heavy book, or anything that resembles a yoga block. So it doesn't have to be this foamy material. It's just that you need an edge, actually. So I would like to go to your mats and have a block nearby. I will watch you so that I can, if I can see you on the screen, because I recorded that before, so I can see and jump in if I see that there are any difficulties in understanding. I couldn't do that when I am teaching, so I recorded it in advance. Okay, whoever wants to try, be ready, the rest can watch as well.
And a little bit of myofascial release for the neck. Place your block behind the head so that the net is off your block. And the lower corner of the block, closest to your shoulders, is right at the base of your skull. You are not going to feel too much just yet, but feel your head really drop. Note that your block is on its middle height. Feel the shoulders drape towards the ground. And feel yourself give up every last bit of effort. And then listen carefully. Without lifting your head off the block, keep that heaviness and just start to rock your head to the right as far as you can comfortably. Notice the direction your nose is pointing towards. Just come halfway back to the center, and that should put you on a nice little ridge of a muscle somewhere near there. And then see if you can just let gravity let you help out here. Dropping onto the block to sink in a little deeper. And then without lifting your head, without any effort, just make little tiny circles with your nose. Something that you're just slightly moving your skin over that underlying tissue, creating some nice hydration in these hard working muscles, fascia. Just relax as much as possible, making little circles. Shoulders drop. Head is heavy. And then drop the head again. Stay here. Take a deep breath. Notice where your nose is pointing and then come halfway back to center. That should put you again on a nice spot. Keep the head heavy, make little circles. As little effort as possible. Just rejuvenating the tissues here. Great spot to work with tension headaches. Can often be really helpful. Can just put a layer of blankets over the block if it's too hard or too much. I'll pause here, take a deep breath. Keep the head heavy, just come back to center. Again, with your head heavy on the block, turn to the left as far as you can comfortably. Feel that circulation start to rush through the right side of the neck. Notice the direction your nose is pointing, then come halfway back to center. Make those little circles. As little effort as possible. Legs, neck, shoulders. And then pause there, take a deep breath. And then from where you're right now, come back to center, halfway once again. Starting to make those little circles. And then rest. Take a deep breath. Come back to center. Remove the block. Lie flat. Just take a few moments to sense that circulation through the neck. The rejuvenation of the tissues.
Yes, I hate to wake you up, but that was something for your neck. Well, I see Firdaus has to do the same thing that I always have to do. The cat wants to be let in.
He doesn't understand when a door is closed. Like whenever you close a door, he's like, I need to be there.
Same here. Okay, you can stay on your mat actually. I would like to add something for the feet, because so the one for the neck you can put in a class if you want to at the beginning. Obviously you wouldn't just do it like in the middle of a flow, and whenever you say, like in Laura's class, she does the Supta Padangusthasana at the beginning, you could just put it in there if you wanted to. A lot of people really like it because it's really, I don't know, how did you feel?
Eva, can I just ask a question quick?
Yes, yeah, sure, everyone.
So I was just trying to figure out, I'm actually going to just pop my camera on. I don't know, I look like a crazy person, I'm sorry. When you're using your block, right? Are you trying to get sort of into the base here against the occipitals, or are you a little bit higher up?
I cannot see your video, sorry, but I can show you at mine. So I would like to, right there where the skull meets the neck. So there are a lot of nerve endings, and the lower edge of your block, the block that is more towards the edge that is more towards your body, towards your butt, that should be in the area, so that your neck is off the block, lying free, but your skull is on the block, and the edge of the block is exactly there, not exactly, doesn't have to be exactly, but in the area where the transition is between skull and neck.
And are you supposed to be feeling sort of, sorry, the reason I'm asking is if I have my block straight, then I don't know, I was right there, but I don't know whether it's just the shape or how I am. I didn't feel much. Whereas if I start tilting the block toward, I think I was towards myself, or no, away, so sort of getting the edge of the block into those occipital points. Yeah. Is that more that kind of, you're wanting pressure there, you're wanting to feel something, it's not like you're just like la la la?
Yeah, well, that is something I would actually like you to ask, because think about what we want, and think about what I told you about in the videos. How much pressure do you think would we want, and how much would we not?
I'm almost learning. So previously I've been like, yeah, push it, make it hit. That's how you're releasing it. But then we're sort of learning that actually your central nervous system wants to feel safe. So do we actually want to feel less sort of pressure, less sort of
exactly. So
aggravation or stimulus?
Perfect. Right, but it's exactly how you say. I'm happy, yes, because that is something that is done wrong with myofascial release a lot. That people try to really feel a lot, and that you are told that you have to go through the pain, and that is actually what will that do? It will activate your sympathetic nervous system, and what we want in this case, if we want to use it to balance our nervous system, we wouldn't want to have the sympathetic part even more active. We wanted to have it a little bit more relaxing. So the thing would be, pressure is okay, but it should at no point feel uncomfortable. You can use it, like if you use it more on the side of a real massage with athletes. So if it would be a different purpose than the one that we are after here, sure, you know, a massage uses a lot of pressure and it's necessary for certain things. But in this case, for our purposes, it's exactly like you say, Claire, it shouldn't be too much because we don't want to feel unsafe, unsecure. But if you feel comfortable with changing the angle of your block, it's exactly the thing that you should do. You should feel your body, and that is, it's another effect that it has, that you become more aware of your body, more aware of what you feel, and that you will be able to realize where the point is between what is still good for you and what is triggering you.
Eva, can I just ask something in relation to that? So I used to go for, before the lockdown, craniosacral therapy, which is that very
our next theme.
Ah, okay, but I want to ask you, in terms of the lightness of the touch, so it really helped me. But I'm one of those people where I also prefer, like, I want to feel it. I want to really like get into the muscle.
It's two completely different things. So both is good. But if you want to put it into a class, in a group class, into a yoga asana class, which has a lot of sympathetic triggers, like doing hard poses, just to balance the nervous system, I wouldn't use the pressure part of it. And it's not, but if you like pressure, I like pressure a lot. It is, if you have a look at traditional Chinese medicine, then that would be something you would be more a deficiency type of person, which I am as well, and I love pressure. But it's not the case for everyone. So we are on the light side for that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, let's proceed to the thing what you could put in terms of myofascial self-release in the middle of class, say in Tadasana, which we also did in Laura's class. That would be something that could do for your feet, and you would need a ball. And yes, I would like you to stand up and try the ball.
The softer ones are really nice for the feet. Place your ball on the ground and come up to stand.
Still not on the ball, just the ball on the ground, you're standing next to the ball.
The texture, the awareness through the feet. Maybe you want to shift a little front to back, side to side, to sense this proprioceptive awareness. And then open your eyes. Take the ball to the right foot first. Breathe myofascial to wake up that attention and awareness in the feet. Right in the center of the foot, length and widthwise. Just lean in and out a few times. Find a medium pressure. Instead of talking and thinking about the myofascial release techniques, just immerse yourself in the experience of the tissues. Lean into that medium pressure, hold, take a couple of breaths, notice the texture and nuance, maybe wiggle the toes a little bit there.
Emma, we are now holding
Then we're
the pressure.
just going to take our way off a bit. We're going to be rolling our foot from the ball of the foot to the heel. Lean as much body weight into it from the ball of the foot to the heel, and then tip it back. So really like the softer ones here. Kind of feel the resistance of the tissues a little bit more. Just let yourself roll in one direction, encouraging that fluid return so that you can really sense the textures. If you can keep a consistent pressure throughout that rolling there, you'll be able to notice more of the nuances. Maybe you roll a little bit more towards the inner or outer side of the foot. Cover the whole sole of the foot, or most of it. Sensing the textures without needing them to change. It's just curiosity. And then just a little light scribbling all over to stimulate the lymphatics.
It's really like doodling on a pad of paper, just scribbling. Yes.
Set your feet up symmetrically and take a moment to pause. And notice, maybe you shift a little bit forward and back, and notice how the information, how each leg collects, feels a little bit different, side to side. Okay, second side. Take the ball right into the center of the foot. Lean in and out a few times. Medium pressure. And lean in and stay. Take a few breaths. A few moments just to notice textures of awareness there. Round of the ball. Take your weight off. Again, roll in one direction from the ball of the foot to the heel. Keep that consistent pressure. Just lean as much body weight into it as you want to try to keep that consistent pressure. Rolling through the ball of the foot to the heel. Let your attention shift from how you're supposed to do that to really what you're feeling. Using this as a way to build a little bit more awareness and curiosity in the feet. Rolling more the inner foot or the outer foot. Notice what feels different side to side. Is one side just a little harder to roll? Does one side feel different? Really feel like you're going to cover the sole of the foot as best as you can. Remember, your goal is not to change the tissues, just to collect information. And then light scribbling all over. And then set the feet so that they are visibly symmetrical, and then close or soften the eyes. And take a moment to notice. Might be just that static awareness. You Might find a little bit of movement. Notice how the sides feel more symmetrical. Notice that articulation of awareness. Maybe you feel a little bit more awake through the toes and the feet as you interact with your mat there.
Okay. So, how did that feel? Did you feel a difference?
Oh, it was so lovely.
For me, the inner arches are so much more painful. Like just to both feet, actually, the inner arches were. I haven't done that for so long. That was good.
Anybody else?
I almost feel so like light, like you can float off the ground. It feels so good.
Yeah, for me, it's always very nice. Okay, so that would be something you could use, and then maybe just not as long, but I wanted you to really feel it. But you could use that at the beginning of sun salutation, maybe, and then cue the awareness in the toes and in the feet afterwards in the sun salutation as well, to just make it a little bit different than what you normally do. The sun salutations you do all the time, everybody knows what's coming next, just to put a little bit more awareness in the feet, because we are standing on them the whole day. And yeah, it's on the one part, it's relaxing, it feels nice. On the other part, it's building awareness, and that awareness in the feet will give us more information in our standing poses. So what I also like to do is something that is completely similar, just with my hands. So I will do the same technique, just leaning in. I'm sitting, have the ball somewhere on the surface, and I'm leaning in and out and in and out, and then I'm rolling the ball under my palm. And that I do before I do a hand balance, an arm balance, because it gives me really a lot more information in my hands than I usually have. The nerve endings are stimulated, and I can feel more what I'm doing on the ground through my hands than when I'm not doing it. So that is something you could try before doing the handstand practice, maybe. Okay, any questions to that MFR technique?
Yeah, there's some questions in the chat.
Okay, I can't see the chat, sorry. Maybe you can you read it to me?
Sure, it's just Roxy was asking, and Sandra, can we use any type of ball? And Sandra was asking, do you recommend fascia rolls?
Yeah, so you can use any kind of ball. For the feet, I would always go for the smaller balls than for the bigger ones. It's nicer, you feel more. Yeah, Janine has even an, how do you call, what is this, the animal that looks like that in English?
A hedgehog.
A hedgehog, yeah. Our Emma has the same. Yeah, we call it eagle, but it's not an eagle in English, obviously. Yeah, so that is nice as well for the feet. But actually, it depends. Like, you know, my husband, he has been a cyclist his whole life. He's got very sensitive feet because his feet have been in carbon soles his whole life. You can put him in prison just by doing some gravel around him in a circle and put him in the side. He will not be able to walk over because his feet are so sensitive. And so he can't go on the beach without protective shoes on. And other people are like very insensitive, and they would probably use smaller balls or the hedgehog balls. It's always like I don't like to have too much equipment. Even tennis balls are fine, and they are very, like, if you work with people in a studio, you can really afford them. So it's even a tennis ball is fine. Anything goes. It's just the pressure and the movement. So you can use whatever you want. But certainly there are very good myofascial balls out there, and some are softer, which would be better for the pin and stretch techniques, and some are harder, and it always depends on the individual. Yes.
Sorry, Eva, one last thing is that Emma's put into the chat box that she gets clients to do this for their pelvic floors. I just want to ask her, Emma, are you getting people to
Emma,
work with pelvic floors? What the hell?
Yo, where do they actually put those balls?
So I like this ball is way too small for that, but like I might even get someone to kind of do the same with like a foam roller like this, and obviously not like a super hard one, but it depends on what you want. My one friend was struggling with a lot of pelvic pain nearing the end of her pregnancy, and this is the same one I was talking about that just works with fascia. And I was like, well, why don't you just sit on the roller and roll out like all over the pelvic floor? And she did that. She felt so much better. And she was opting for a natural birth, but unfortunately her cervix wasn't dilating at all. But, you know, it really, if you are working with pregnant women, could be nice. That's only if they don't have varicose veins. That will be very painful.
Yeah, it's good to know. You can use it anywhere, except for I also put in the contraindications that we should obviously listen to and have a look. Emma will have way more means to use it more specifically because she just knows more about the bodies. But in a group class setting, there are a few contraindications where you would have a look at, and I put it in the presentation as well. But as we are just talking to Emma, maybe she can just stay on because we are going to craniosacral therapy, which I don't want to go into because you really need to be a therapist to properly do it. The background with this is that, remember, the parasympathetic nervous system, the nerves are, most of them, they are all craniosacral. So they leave the spinal cord, or some of them even don't go through the spinal cord, either at the cranium or at the sacrum. So there are 12 cranial nerves, all of them are parasympathetic nerves, and that is more or less so for you to understand why craniosacral therapy could play a role here is that if we want to improve the parasympathetic tone, the cranium would actually be a good point to get access to influence those nerves. So I will not go, I put a lot of text because I don't want to talk about it here on the presentation. So for those who are interested in it, you can read it, you can ask me questions privately, or maybe even Emma. So I don't know, Emma, are you doing craniosacral therapy?
No, I haven't done a course in it. It's not really my interest, but my colleague does or has done the course, but she actually doesn't use it often. So can't really answer much on it other than we don't really do it in the practice.
Okay, so what I put together a few. So we would try to, you can think of it like, it's like myofascial self-release, which is acting on the muscles, like the name myofascial. So that is the fascia that surrounds the muscles implies. And it's like an adaptation of myofascial therapy. Some techniques, some craniosacral techniques, but they aim to get to the nerves instead of the muscles. So it is more like a contract and relax version of the myofascial self-release that is directed towards the nerves in the subocciput. So exactly there where we with the neck triggered the big ridges of muscles. Because the cranial nerves carry motor fibers, I said that in the videos, that control voluntary movement of our eyeballs. There is a lot of movement of the eyes involved in craniosacral therapy. So if you do myofascial self-release, if you want to use the contract and relax version, you would move a joint during putting pressure on it. And what you could do with the same mechanism would be to put pressure on the nerves and then at the same time move your eyes in a certain way. So it's a lot of eye movement exercises that you could easily do in a class, and we will do one because we don't have the time today, because we already did a lot of soothing and very calm practices. We will do one in the next section on Friday. We will do one eye movement exercise which could be considered craniosacral therapy, which would involve the motor fibers of the cranial nerves.
Eva?
Yes.
Can I just say, Claire has just asked about the experience of it. Do you mind if I just quickly say something?
Yeah.
Maybe Roxy would also like to add to this. Claire, something happening? Oh no, it's me. Claire, I had to go for the therapy because of issues on my shoulder. I don't know why I sound very echoey. But I found it very strange at first because the therapist spent like the first 15 minutes just holding my feet and not saying anything. And like, she told me she was listening to my spinal fluid. And then, I don't know, I guess I didn't know whether I believed her or not, but that's what she said she was doing. And then she literally just put like one finger on the side of my neck because I had an issue on the left. And she just put her finger there and she just held it there for like 10 minutes. And as my neck would just keep going like in and out. And then at some point it just went like, sure, and everything released and my whole arm just like flopped off the bed. And I slept for like 3 days afterwards. I was incredibly tired, even though I'd done nothing. But I found it hugely beneficial. And I was going like once every second week before lockdown, but I haven't been able to return. But maybe Roxy's got another experience.
Yes. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Great. So to share also, so I've been doing it every second week here in Mauritius with a therapist, and the session also, it starts with the feet, but she spent kind of like, I think 2 to 5 minutes on the feet and the leg, kind of feeling this like the left and the right, and then she goes straight away to your head, and she holds your head in the palms of the hand, and it feels like she's slightly moving your head from side to side, and that feels like it's literally half the session. And then the other half of the session, she puts one hand under your sacrum and then one hand on my belly, and she feels also like it's like very small movement of the sacrum, and it's from the brain all the way to the sacrum. It felt like I was traveling super far. I was like in and out of sleep, and also after the session I felt very tired and sleepy and not grounded in the reality. I felt like almost I've like traveled over dimension, but it's hugely beneficial. I love it. It's a very subtle way of therapy. It doesn't look like you're doing much because you're just lying there and sleeping, but internally major things are happening.
Yeah,
So,
I can add to that. That is, but you can also read it because unfortunately, we don't have the time. There would be so much to go into. This is all this accessing the sacrum and then the head it's got to do with, the craniosacral system. So there are fluid membranes that surround the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves. And these membranes are, all of them are always connective tissue, and they have to be, there's the cerebral spinal fluid that absorbs shock, nourishes, and supports the nervous system. And this fluid somehow ebbs and flows in the system. And it's like, if this ebb and flow, I would try to visualize it a little bit like the ocean. If this ebb and flow does not happen, if it's not alternating like the waves in the ocean, if it's not like with muscles, if it's somehow compressed at some point and can't get through, then it will not function well. So it's really necessary for the system to work that it ebbs and flows, and that is what craniosacral therapy tries to access. And what we can do, because we are not therapists, we will not work with our hands on our students. We can have them do that themselves, and one way to access that would be eye movements. Because if you move your eyes, you will the muscles on the back of your head, they will contract and move as well, and that would influence the cranial nerves. But we will experience it in the next session. It's really nice to see how that works, if you just, how you feel after you did that for like 7 minutes or so. So there is detailed instruction for some things you can do with a block and eye movement for yourselves as well. I put pictures in and also direct instructions how you can do it a little bit lower and at the sacrum as well. So if someone is more interested in trying it, just give it a try and let me know how it felt. Otherwise, I would like to go to the next section, and that would be a little bit more active. So any questions so far? I don't see the chat, so I make Firdaus my secretary for reading the questions of the chat. Okay, so the next thing would be the social engagement system. That sounds strange, and I still feel it sounds strange. But spoiler alert, nothing is as easy as we think, and everything is a little bit more complicated. So our stress response is a bit more complicated than I told you in the videos, but just a bit. But this little bit might be interesting for us. So actually, we said that the autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic part. But the parasympathetic part, and we touched on it a little bit in Carla's classes as well, is subdivided into 2 divisions again, which would be the ventral and the dorsal system. The dorsal system is not interesting for us here because it's more the trauma side. That would be interesting for Firdaus, because that is relevant for the freeze reaction that we have. So interestingly, the parasympathetic nervous system is part of our stress response. We always say, oh, if we are stressed, it's fight or flight. So the sympathetic system is in charge. But it could also happen that the parasympathetic nervous system is overly active in a stressful situation and would have us freeze. And that would be the dorsal vagus part, but not for now. We are more interested in the ventral vagus part here. That is the part of the vagus nerve that lies above the diaphragm. And the part that it plays in our stress response is something that we can use in a bottom-up approach again to calm us down a little bit. And it is like, we talked about stress response when we are threatened, we have fight or flight, or what I told you now, we freeze. But there's a third way we can react in a stressful situation, and that should be the normal one. If it's not life-threatening, we turn to people around us for support. And that would be regulated by the ventral vagus nerve, the ventral part of the vagus nerve. So that is something that you see when you have this brain imaging things, that whenever we engage in positive social interaction, that this part is very, very active, and it has a direct effect on heart rate, blood pressure, and all those kind of things. So what we would like to do, or what we could do in a yoga class, is to activate this part of the nervous system, the ventral vagus complex, by engaging in social interactions. And that is what we do a lot of times. Like, that is why we probably go to a yoga class in a studio instead of in just home practice. Like, a lot of yoga is community and doing things together and have this feeling of exercising together. But in social distancing times and lockdown, that is not so easy to do. So I was thinking about how to show you something that you can do even online to integrate the ventral vagus complex into class and to integrate community support, the feeling of community support into a flow. And one example, we will not do this now, you can have a look at it, would be in like All Fours, which Laura did as well in her class, and that is exactly where you could put it in. Another one that is what we will do now is a simple flow that you could combine with the Warrior 3, our peak pose. Once you got to peak pose Warrior 3, so everyone is prepared for Warrior 3, everyone is stable in Warrior 3, you can do it. You can add at the end of class a simple little very nice community support flow to feel a little bit more relaxed and more happy or whatever. And I would like you to try it. This is a very long video which breaks down the whole flow in detail. So you can have a look at it later, how I would like sequence it. We will just start where the whole flow is put together, because you are advanced yoga teachers, you know what a down dog is, you know what a lunge is, you know what a crescent is, you know what a Warrior 3 is. So I don't have to tell you, so I don't have to teach you in detail. We will start right when the flow is already set. So please go to your mat again to just feel a little bit of the community support that we can give each other.
But what I would like you to imagine
Come
is
to
that
child's
you're in
pose.
a room going to be the same. Maybe a little bit more efficient, maybe less
Okay.
pausing. But what I would like you to imagine is that you are in a room full of your closest yogi friends. So imagine this right now in your mind's eye. That your mats are close together, it's a crowded room. Mats lined up next to each other. And even though you might not be able to see them, because why would you see them? You're in child's pose right now. You can feel their presence. You can feel your closest yogi friends supporting you from your right and left side. And as much as you can feel them supporting you, you are also drawing upon you unique gifts to support them. As we move through these next rounds of movements, same series of movements, maybe a little bit of adding on and the second time in, I would like you to imagine that you are in this crowded room with two dear friends practicing on either side of you. Lean on them for support and allow them to lean on you. Downward facing dog.
Come to downward facing dog.
Take an inhale. Exhale, side out. Inhale, right leg high. Exhale, step right leg forward, kneeling lunge, back toes tucked. Inhale, arms high. Exhale into leaning crescent.
Lean forward into
Inhale
kneeling
into
crescent.
crescent.
Crescent lunge.
Exhale, left knee to chest. Take a breath in here. Now on your exhale, cross that left thigh over, but reach out the arms to the side as if you're going to hold on to your imaginary friends. Keep that. Pull that left knee back into your chest. Exhale, sweep the left leg back.
To Warrior
But
3.
you're holding on to your imaginary friends, supporting them. Put a bend into your right knee. Step the left foot back. You're still supporting your partner. Inhale, lift through the chest here. And now exhale, let both hands find the mat. Release, back to plank. Maybe chaturanga. Inhale to cobra or up dog. And exhale back, downward facing dog. Second side, inhale, left up. Exhale, step forward, knee down, lunge. Smiling faces, inhale, arms up high, supporting each other. Exhale, leaning crescent. Inhale into crescent. And then on your exhale, pull the right knee in towards your chest. Take a breath in here, let's your arms open wide. Exhale, cross right leg over left. Inhale, pull the right knee up into your chest, still supporting each other. Sweep that right leg back, put a little back into your knee, step back, revisit crescent lunge, keep supporting your neighbors. Inhale, open your chest, exhale, release, hands to the mat. Step back to plank, maybe chaturanga, maybe not. Inhale, cobra or up dog, exhale, back, down dog.
Okay, I don't want to continue any further. That is actually what I wanted you to feel. It's a simple flow, but just by breaking it a little bit down as a community thing, by giving each other support, by feeling the energy of the others, it will have a little bit of a different effect. There are people who can't imagine things. It's a disease. They read a book and they can't picture the people in that book. But if you can imagine something like that, it will have a positive effect if you like your friends and if you like group classes. So how did that feel for you? Okay. So that is something that you can put in anywhere, and especially for me, I do it in my online classes now a lot, because it's the thing that people most often say, well, online classes are nice, you can do them at home, it's really, really fine, you can do them whenever you want, but there is something missing. That is the people around you. But your brain cannot really tell what's real and what is imagination. So to use the imagination, we'll have another chapter which will be imaginary, that has an effect on your system, and that is something that tips the scales a little bit more to the parasympathetic side. Then we have the concept of variability. That is connected to neuroplasticity and the homunculus chapters in the videos. And it's something we talked a lot about with Catherine already. So that is what I said. There are certain things that we already do in our classes anyway. So this is just a quick recap of what we already did in the last weeks. Our bodies and nervous systems are constantly adapting in response to demands posed on them. Catherine talked about that with progressive loading. Then our muscles adapt, and it's the same with our nervous system, which I told you about in the homunculus chapter. Our bodies thrive on variety and novelty. We need to move in as many ways as possible, including new and unfamiliar ways, if we want to have really precise cortical maps in our brain, and if we want to have the muscles functioning in as many ways as possible. So we need to load them in an elongated state, in a shortened state, in whatever, in all different types of motion. And the same is beneficial for not only our muscles, but also for our brain. And in addition to that, this is where the pain chapter comes in. Blurred cortical maps, that means maps where you have some kind of blind spots in your body, where you can't really feel certain parts of your body, they are closely correlated with chronic pain. So that it has the positive side effect that if you move in a variety of ways, and it is used in pain therapy a lot, just to make the maps of your body and your brain a little bit clearer, and it will have the tendency to help with chronic pain as well. And the good thing is that yoga is a safe and low load environment to try out these movement patterns. It's not really extremely loaded, and you are not outside where anything can happen. You are on your map, you are in your safe space, and you can try a lot of variability, which we did a lot. Like we all the poses that Laura used to prepare us for the peak poses, they were not the standard yoga poses. We always adapted them to lead us towards the peak pose, and that was always something new in them, and that is really good for our brains as well. So in general, I would always recommend people to approach poses differently than they habitually do, just to see how well, what about in bridge pose, what happens, how do you feel when you have the legs a little bit wider, or in triangle pose, what happens if you integrate the hip into the movement or not. The same thing that Catherine asked us to do in our homework all the time, to just experience all poses in a different way. That's really, really, really good for our brains and really good for our nervous system. So I wouldn't like do everything different. People don't like that. That stresses them again. But if you just limit yourself, your new ideas to just 1 or 2 per class and increase the level throughout class, put in a lot of repetitions, because at first people will feel really uncomfortable in new positions. It feels strange. It feels different than, like what I said, if you always close your hands to prayer like this. It's the same thing, but it's completely different feeling when you put the other thumb on top. It's the same thing, but it feels completely different. It feels awkward. It doesn't feel right, but it's still the same thing. One's right, one is the left thumb on top. So you will have to tell people that it might feel awkward, and they might feel not doing it right or whatever, but that is a sign of adaptation. Your brain is realizing, oh, something is different, that is new, I have to explore it, I have to map it, I have to write it down, more or less. So that is good when that happens. And to try to use things that we normally do, to just teach it in a different way and emphasize different skills in a certain movement. And if you want to have examples of what you can do with variety, you just have a look at the Instagram page of Jenny Rawlings. Every morning I wake up and there is a new idea for integrating variety into any kind of yoga pose. So it's really, she's got so many ideas to do things differently. It's crazy, and there's no end to it. So you can have a look there. And I also put in, you can have a look at that, a pose that is very familiar to all of us, cat-cow, in a very unfamiliar way, which will also not only be unfamiliar for us, so new, but also be a little bit into the craniosacral therapy direction again, because it addresses the spinal cord. So you can watch that. It's really easy to do and to feel, and if you have questions about that, just come back to me after you watched it.
Start with cat and cow.
What I would like to do with you now is to do an unfamiliar twist, because twisting is something we do in class as well a lot. And you can do it at the beginning of class or at the end of class. It will just feel different than it normally does. So questions first, and then we try this twist together. No questions? Firdaus, any questions in the chat? No? Okay, so we are, like, the good news is we are good in time. It won't be that long anymore. So you are nearly done. Just enjoy sitting on your mat in a relaxed state, just however you would like to sit, on a block, on the edge of a blanket, or even you can even do it on your chair. And let's go.
Start by stretching your arms out wide. You will come into an easy twisting flow. With your next exhale, take a turn to your right and just place your hands as you would for seal twist. You're just going to be here for a moment and then release. Bring your arms wide again, twist over to your left and place your hands there. Just a few times at your pace. Just switch side to side here. There might be a little brief pause between at each side, but keep it flowing, a little bit of dynamic movement. That's starting to help us mobilize the spine just to create a little bit more flow. And the next time you find yourself in a twist to your right, please pause here for a moment. Sense that your shoulders are stacked over your hips, that your spine is nice and tall, and your sternum, your breastbone, rotated a little bit more to the side, truly twisting. Turn your gaze and your head to look past your right shoulder. So now your cervical spine is in the twist as well. And then try this out. Keep the twist from the chest down, but untwist your head. So turn your head to look past your left shoulder. Just pause here. Keep your chin towards your left shoulder and try to bring your sternum a little bit more to the right and your chin a little bit more to the left. Does it feel like wringing out the spine a little bit? Then unrotate your head to look back into the same rotation as your spinal twist, and then unrotate to find the center and feel how that feels to let that go. Next exhale, take your twist over to the left. Start by having the head turned into the direction of the twist, the normal way that you know. Looking past the left shoulder. Stay in the twist from the chest down, but untwist your head so that you turn your gaze toward the right shoulder. It's like your spine is twisting into two different directions. Rotate your sternum more to the right and the sternum more to the left and the chin more to the right. Bringing out just a touch more. Then unrotate the head so that you turn back to the left and unrotate all the way out from the twist and notice how you feel. Maintaining that sense of buoyancy. One more time, take your twist to the right. Begin by turning your head to the right as well. Then keep the lower part of the spine twisting to the right, but untwist your head so that you're twisting your cervical spine in the opposite direction, so to the left. Rotate your sternum a little bit more into the twist to the right and the chin a little bit more to the left. And now everything stays the way it is, but take your eyes and turn them to look to the right. Everything is wound up in the twist. Oh, this is crazy. Your sternum rotating right, your chin left, eyes right. Hold that for another moment and then let your eyes look left again. Then unrotate your head and then come back to the center. Pause and take a breath. How does that feel? Have you woken up some new connections within? With your next exhale, rotate to the left for the last time. Last time, turn your gaze to the left. And then keep your sternum facing left, but turn your chin and your head over to the right. And are you ready? Keep your head facing to the right, but just the eyes, nothing else. Look over to the left. And as you do this, keep rotating the sternum to the left, chin to the right, and the eyes to the left. Just a little more. Final moment. And then let your eyes come out of the twist. Let them look back over to the right. Untwist your head, turn your chin back to the left, and finally unwind your chest and arrive back in center. Pause for a final moment and sense.
Yes. For me, that was really difficult to look the other direction than my head turns. And when you tell me I have to rotate my head further to the right, I will always look to the right automatically. It's really hard to keep the eyes to the left while rotating to the right because we normally use it that way, but it's different and it involves a little bit of different connections in the brain. So it's useful to try that out once in a while. Not always, but just for fun. Okay. Any questions?
No, just to say, Eva, actually that last bit of your eyes and your head in different directions made me pretty nauseous.
Oh, yeah, that might be the case because but it is, it's the same with, I think, some people also experience that when they do aerial yoga, the yoga in the hammock, because it's everything with the cranial nerves. And the good thing is that is something you can train as well. So maybe that is something, it will not make you as nauseous as going on a boat that is going all kind of different directions and you are really, really, really confused with what is going on. That is something that you can control. So when people have problems with motion sickness, I try to do things like that with them. Maybe not holding that long, but just once in a while to, it's adapting. It's just like the nausea that you feel is also that it's unfamiliar and it's, again, you're not feeling safe. You're feeling
actually you're right, because I do get quite motion ill. Like now that I think about it, that is something that I tend to get.
Yeah, and it is like, that is your nervous system not feeling safe. It's confused. It is what's going on there. Normally I look the same direction as my head turns and I have everything under control and now it's different. But sometimes in life that happens, like when you are like going crazy in the car curves and things like that. So that is something you can prepare yourself for a little bit. Yeah. But anyway, if it's not comfortable, I always tell people can back off of anything all the time anyway. So that is, it's always just giving you options to try and work with, and nothing ever works for everyone the same way and always. Yeah. And that is, it's the last topic we have for today will be one of these. We tried this resonance breathing. So we will come to breathing in Carla's session already. And like Caro had a problem with it, she didn't feel comfortable with this breathing rhythm of 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. I will not go deep into it. I just want to say, with regards to breathing, I like to incorporate pranayama not only in a sitting position, but I like to do it in movement, in simple, easy movement flows. And we will have one example next session, where we just do a simple pranayama where we will change the relationship between inhale and exhale while we are doing a very easy, simple movement. Especially for people when they are coming from work, a lot of people are really restless and it's hard for them to sit for a long time. So that is something that I try to keep in mind and not to put too many things that are directed at bringing people to rest and to calm them down a little bit, but not do that in a position that already already puts them where they have to be relaxed, like sitting for a long time, and breathing requires a little bit of being at rest already, because if you are restless, you can't sit, you will wiggle and all those things. So I like to do pranayama while moving, and that is what we will have a look at next session. But for this, I would like to come back to this resonant breathing that we talked about with Carla. So I will not reiterate on that. I will just try to add a little bit on it. And that is, it can really act like a stress reset button. And there are studies, as I said in the session with Carla. To add on it, it's like with everything, to be most effective, it's best to do it every day or more than just once, because it has to be like there's a repetitive effect as well. So you can do it in any position. You don't have to do it lying down or sitting or whatever. So you choose what you are comfortable with. That is, for me, most important. If you like lying, then do it lying. If you rather do it sitting, then do it sitting. Or you can also do it standing or lying with your legs up the wall or whatever. So the position is not at all important. We will do it in a lying position because we tried it with Carla in a sitting position, so that you can just feel the difference for you, what would be something that you prefer. And what I like to do, the problem is with this 5 and 5 or whatever, if you take 5 to 7, whichever relationship of in-breath and out-breath you choose, if you do it at home, it's nice to have an app. Also, if you do it in class, like an app like Carla had, so that you don't have to count all the time, because otherwise you have to count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 out. It's really exhausting for you as a teacher. And it's also not that people like, they always get this external input from you and your voice. It's nice to just let them be. And what I really like is an app that's called the Breathing app. I have that on the recommendations in the videos as well. It's a free app. And so you don't need to count in any way. You can also use the bells like Carla did. The thing is, with this breathing app, you can choose from different ratios of breathing. So it's not set to 5, 5. There is one for 6, 4, one for 4, 6, and one for 5, 5, and then even one for 5, 7, which would be a longer exhalation, which is even more calming. But all of them measure up to 5 to 6 breaths per minute. And that would be the breathing rate, where all the effect on the heart rate variability, on the heart rate, on the blood pressure. And yes, exactly that, Janine. Yeah. That is where the effects are best. So you could try to just, we will do a 5 count in, 7 count exhale to try that out. But if you do it for yourself in group, you would have to choose one relationship. But if you do it for yourself, you can try to see, I take a really nice, slow, elongated inhale, count how long that takes, and then use the ratio in the app that matches this inhale. So if you inhale for 5, then take the 5, 5 or 5, 7, whatever if you want to emphasize the cooling down, the calming down effect, then you would take 7 for out breath. So you have 3 different ratios you can choose from that might help Caro to find one for her as well. And it has 3 different signals that you can use. So if you don't like a bell, or if you don't like the audio feedback, you can also do it with your eyes slightly open, and there is a breathing ball that you can use that gets bigger while you inhale and smaller while you exhale, but there's no audio feedback. So it's just visual. You see the ball getting bigger or the ball getting smaller. If that is what you prefer, because you don't like this being attacked by some audio sound, you can choose this. If you're just on the tech side and say, well, I like my stopwatch, I'm a runner, I am used to my stopwatch, I like that. There is a stopwatch as well, which will just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can have a look at that watch. Or one with music. I love that music, it's brainwave music. So we will try that, but it's not, some people will like it, others will not like it. It depends on what you actually prefer. And we will combine this with something that Claire talked about in her back care class, the curves of our spine. We have different curves of our spine. Some curve like when you're lying on the ground towards the ground, and others curve away from the ground. And it's always good, as Claire said, to have an awareness of your spine. So we will use this awareness of our spine, we will integrate that into the resonance breathing. We will breathe in a way that when we breathe in, we will travel the upward slope where the spine gets away from the ground. And when we breathe out, we will travel towards the ground. So the cervical spine and the primary curves, so the cervical spine and the lumbar spine are the ones, the secondary, that go away from the ground, will be breathed in differently than the thoracic and the sacral spine part. But I will talk to you about that while we are breathing. So you just have to give yourself a little bit of time. We will not start right away, because that is, you will have some time to settle in, lying on the ground, and just feel your body lying on the ground before we start with regulating the breath. And that will be the last technique we will try for today. So it is a nice way to just go into the rest of the day to really relax and calm a bit down. So if you want, lie on your back.
Slowly start to make your way into Shavasana. Slowly start to make your way into Shavasana. Settle back. We're going to start with a very simple, very passive pranayama, and I will use some music to guide us into this coherent breathing. So as you lie back, take a few moments just to feel the bones settle into this heavy state of relaxation. Sense the effortlessness of the breath as you close.
Eva, I've lost the audio.
Yeah.
Eva, I've lost the audio, and it seems Caro has as well. We can't, yeah, it looks like Taryn might have as well.
Okay, so just again, who could hear me? Could someone hear me? No, no one. Okay, I will try again, but you could at the beginning.
Just very briefly, the first thing I heard was settle into Shavasana.
Can you hear it? Okay. Taryn can hear me?
You're going to start with a very simple,
Janine, can you hear me?
very passive pranayama, and I will use some music to guide us into this.
It keeps breaking, so it's, you hear 1 little second and then it breaks. So now I can hear absolutely nothing.
Okay, and I would say, instead of going on with that, I will just quickly play this just to demonstrate. The music, it's like an upbeat and a downbeat if you use that app. So it's in breathing. Can you hear that? And out. Okay, so it might be probably my computer telling me that it's time to stop that session. I will try to fix that technical problem with my audio until next time, until Friday. We are at the 5 minutes to 12, and we can use this 5 minutes probably better for some more questions. And I will try to fix that until next time. And anyway, we had a feeling or a taste of the coherent breathing with Carla already as well. So it's not the worst part to break up with now. So yes, you can all unmute yourself if you want to, and then I would like to hear your questions or your wishes for Friday or whatever input you can give me. And yes, Janine.
That was awesome, Eva. Thank you so much. You're a very good teacher.
Oh, thank you.
I would love to learn more about the myofascia release.
Yeah, that is something I would love to. Maybe I organize one workshop for that if people are interested in it. But it's something we have to cover some more techniques, and we only have this little time because it's part of the 300-hour. And it's really fascinating, and you can do so much with it, but it will be a whole workshop of itself. But I will try to show you some classes to give you the links to some. Is someone of you with Yoga Glow? No. Yoga International probably. Also not. Caro is, I know. No. I will try to see if I can maybe put some things together that I can send over as well. But you also have the hamstring thing, which we can also watch. And you can always come and ask me, and I'm available.
Eva, will the videos be available on the Wellness Connection website?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Otherwise, I will also, because it's a cloud recording, because, you know, I had really big problems with my computer. Everything broke down. I lost my whole hard drive and all these things. So this is why I didn't record it on my computer. I recorded it via Zoom on the cloud now, and I will get a link in a second already, and of the recording. So I will send you the link in a second anyway, so you can have a look at what we did today. But I will also, once we are done on Friday, I will send you a link for my Google Drive where you have access to the whole presentation.
Thank you, Eva.
Eva, have you recorded this on the cloud? Is that the problem?
No, it's not a problem. I have it on the cloud. Yes. So
then it should be fine to send to Catherine.
Yes. But if Catherine is not putting it up for some reason, because I don't know how limited the space on the wellness website is, you will definitely have a link to access it anyway. Yes.
Eva, please, could you confirm the next session is at 10:30 on Friday?
Yes, because you wanted to move it to earlier, and okay. I can. Maybe we chat in the chat on Thursday again, because for some people 10 o'clock would be even better to have it at the same time as now. But it's load shedding for me until 10:30. But maybe that schedule changes. And if I don't have, we can also start at 10. It's fine for me. It's just because without electricity, I can't start. Anything else? Then that's it from my side, and I see you all tomorrow as a fellow student again, and then on Friday with the nervous system again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Eva. That was amazing.
Thank you so much, Eva.
Well done. Really
Bye.
nice.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Eva. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Eva. Yay! Well done.